Welcome, friend. January 3rd. Today is one of my sister's birthdays. It's always fun to connect with her and have a conversation with her on her birthday. So I'm going to share my screen. Not much is actually changed. The last, 3 days here has been fairly consistent energy. Yes, the moon has been moving around, but it's also been, bouncing around into some of the energies that were already there. So again, I'm going to go back to thinking. So a couple things can happen here. What I love is that Ra had a third line mind. Okay, so his mind itself was very, very pessimistic. We all know that. When you connect with Ra's energy and listen to his languaging, there was this deep pessimism. And I'm a 1-3. I get pessimism really deeply. However, also with that third line, it was bonds broken and made with concepts. And something that is interesting here is that he would always, he would talk about the pressure. He'd always like gnaw on the pressure and talk about the pressure. And yet not very often did he, really highlight the beautiful fuel that was there. Yes, he did. I get it. He did. However, there was lots of times where he just pushed that pressure and that pessimistic pressure through to other beings. And I see this channel as this thinker that is allowing us to go to a different thought process. And really, this is how we're going to be able to close off this last year, open up the January 2022, and actually use our capacity of our computer, our processing mechanism in a different way. And identifying with our future in a new way, not looking at the past and processing the past through that old patterned way of anger, frustration, bitterness, disappointment, but actually shifting the perspective. And this is what I do with my clients. And I always, and the languaging that I use is I challenge them. They will start to go down a rabbit hole of a story. And I'm like, can I challenge you to look at this differently? And when we lean into it, it's like, oh, because we get caught in just chewing on one way of seeing things. I get it. We all have our own perspective. I totally understand that. However, as experiences come through us, we do have the opportunity to reflect on that entire process and shift our perspective. So Bob Proctor, he was also another Canadian coach. I am learning about so many magical Canadian coaches that I didn't even really know that were there. Bob Proctor I've known for quite a while, but he has since passed away. But one of the things that he did to help his thought process, he would imagine that his mentors were all sitting around a table, and he would have a problem or something that was challenging him, or he was bumping into roadblocks, and he would write it out on a piece of paper. And then literally in his boardroom or in his conference room or in his office, he would take that and he would move it around the table as though each one of the mentors was looking at the problem through their perspective. And all of a sudden, his thought had the capacity to up-level and not just be stuck in this movement. So how can we identify and see our past experiences different? Well, something that I've shared here on the channel before is that my parents were both alcoholics. And as a kid, there was lots of fear. There was so much fear in the house around alcoholism, and were they going to survive? Were we going to survive? And what I learned from that process was really understanding the energy field with my totally open G center. I had so many great learnings from that. I was able to understand the emotionality of people, and really lean into reading who people were way before I even understood or had language for any of this. So you get to identify with your past differently through a higher thinking process. And that's what you're doing here in this journaling aspect, you know. And how do you want to innocently move into a new direction? What kind of tension is there for you? What is present? What is present? What's the present tension? And again, the pressure, right? The pressure. Now, again, Ra made bonds and broke bonds with a lot of concepts. And what I would say is recognize this as a fuel. Look at it more so as a fuel. And if we take a look at each one of the planets and how that energy field is being presented to us today, you want to lean in. Venus. Well, what does Venus hold? This is our values. This is our love. What is Pluto? Pluto is the energy for truth and transformation. So what is true about limitation? And what actually isn't true? What is transitory in our lives that moves this, you know, what's true for us? Because there's truth, right? Truth is, again, the inner truth of the 61 and the limitation of the 60, and any of the individual circuitry tells you that there's a truth, and inside the Bible there's principles, and they hold up to truth. There are universal laws, and they hold a truth that you know, if you density and buoyancy, let's just say, okay, if you go to the top of your roof and jump off, you are denser than the air. You are going to hit the bottom and it's going to hurt. Okay. If you have a swimming pool and you drop a ping pong ball, well, the ping pong ball isn't going to sink down. It's going to stay buoyant because it is lighter than the water. So there's universal truths that are available to us, cause and effect. That's what we look at deeply in the coaching world around cause and effect. What is the effect that you're recognizing and seeing, and then identifying with that, because there's this past energy field. And what is the actual root cause? So you talk about, you know, in the coaching world, we want to get down to the root cause. We want to peel away some of those layers of experience so that we can get to the root cause. And then again, I'm going to talk about these principles. So I see the 19 and the 49 differently than how Ra presented it, that, you know, we're going to have this, there's going to be a cut off here, and that channel's not going to be available after 2027 to those who are born as Raves. And that doesn't mean that it's every human being on the planet. Okay, just so you know that. It's not every human being on the planet that's born after 2027 that's going to be a Rave. That's incorrect information. But what I see is that we are no longer going to sacrifice, because that's what the 1949 teaches us. So that is something for you to start to look at now. What principles have you been sacrificing that have kept you away from your connection with spirit, with source material, you know, God, Allah, Buddha, whatever it is, that energy field that is housed, that is, I shouldn't even say housed, it kind of hovers over her skull. But what do you no longer want to sacrifice in your movement forward? As we lean closer to 2027, we want to really be taking our lives and really evaluating them and understanding them, so that we can live a more qualitative existence, where we're not chasing, but we are actually being the gift that is within our human design. We are all here to give of ourselves. And giving of ourselves begins with your own natal chart. So how can you think about your natal chart differently? How can you think about the transits as a support mechanism or an empowering mechanism? How can you think about your past experiences through a lens that can serve you versus hold you back from being the magical human that you were designed to be? Okay. So again, all questions that you can write down in your journal and just lean into them. See what comes up. And sometimes these practices can bring up a lot of tenderness. The physical body may want to cry. The physical body may want to laugh. You know, just allow for that stuff to happen so that your the nervous system, you can retrain that nervous system as we move forward into 2027 in this more emotionally intelligent, okay? I don't even know if I want to say retrain, but repair your nervous system so that it has the opportunity to trudge or move through and create new neural pathways versus, you know, this repetition and rut of an old pathway. Okay, have fun. We will chat tomorrow. There's some shifts tomorrow and that'll be fun. All right, take care.